What's going on, boys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have an exciting video on the Civic. It's kind of a different, kind of unusual video. I don't want to speak too much because I'm tired of saying things prematurely and having them not work out, but I have got a bunch of paperwork here for inspection for this car, and today we're gonna go over the entire car with a fine-tooth comb. We're gonna check the lighting, the DOT stamps, the steering wheel, the airbag system, the engine, the fuel lines, the brake lines, the suspension components, wheels and tires, brakes, yada yada yada, because we have a whole inspection form. This is like a legit inspection form. Obviously I'm not an inspector or mechanic shop, but this thing might have to go through an inspection, and I basically want to see if it's worth bringing this Civic and just hating my life trying to get it past an inspection, or if it's more worth to unfortunately say our goodbyes, cut our losses with the built EG hatch, and move on to a new platform in said new location if it happens. Like I said, I'm not saying too much, but potential cars like RSX Type S, CSX Type S, I don't know, you can put it in the comments, but I want to go over the entire Civic today and see what would pass and what would fail. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this. It's going to be a funny video. Let's get started. Without further ado, got to jack the front end of this car up because we're going to be under there a lot today, and we have a lot of paperwork. This is a fairly big stack, and we're going to try and crush most of it out today. Let's get going. All right, now that the car is jacked up as high as it can go for my big ass to crawl under there, we have our paperwork and our notebook here. So basically, anything that I think is a fail on here, as you see, we have pass, fail, or not applicable. I've basically scratched off all the non-applicable ones, so pretty much everything applies, but every time it's a fail, I'm gonna write it down here and see what we can do to fix that. But we're just gonna start off at the top. The first few things is VIN plate condition and VIN plate consistency. I'm not gonna show you guys the VIN of the car, but the plate is fine. All the stickers everywhere else are fine. That works just great. So we'll go ahead and mark those off. Next thing we're gonna move to is ABS. This car does not have ABS. As you can tell in this engine bay, there is no ABS module anywhere. It's just not an ABS car, so I forgot, but I'm gonna have to mark those off as well. Next thing on the list is gonna be CV joint road test. I know that my CV joints are fine, but we're gonna have to go down and inspect them. Same with the universal joints, wanders or pulls, all of that. So first things first, let's go down and take a look at the CV joints themselves. All right, so for me to inspect everything in here properly, I need to take the wheels off, but before I do, we're gonna check the wheel bearings just to make sure those are good with the wheels on. Absolutely no play in the wheel bearing or the tie rod. Wheel bearings and tie rods are all good to go. Let's take these off and check out those CVs and all the other bushings on the lower control arms and things like that. So let's see here, wheel bearings, good to go. Tie rods, inner and outer, good to go. Let's go back to the first page and check out these CV axles. All right, CV axles, let's check the boots. They don't look too wet to me. They do have an ABS ring on it, which might be cause for concern. Maybe they think I might have deleted it, but this car has no ABS sensors or anything of the sort. Inner boot also looks okay. I don't see any wet on the inner boot. And then there is a little bit of play, but that's just the studs on the drum. I'll have to put those Phillips head recessed bolts in it, so that won't happen. But the whole wheel bearing's moving, everything is good there. There's no in and out play, nothing crazy. I think the CV axles are good to go. I'll check the other side, but I'm pretty sure these are all set. Okay, CV joint and universal joint. This is with road test, but I do know that they are good on the road as well, so we're gonna check those off. Vehicle wanders or pulls, it doesn't. The alignment is perfect. Brake system performance, that is going to be a fail for one thing and one thing only. The brake rotors are good. There's no crazy grooves, there's no crazy lips, and they have a ton of brake pads. As you can see, there is a ton of pad left there, and that is the same for the passenger side as well. But what happens is with my brakes, the booster is going bad, or the master, because If you're sitting on an incline and you're at a red light or a stop sign and you put the brake down and you sit there, after a minute or two, the car will slowly start to go back and you gotta take your foot off and put it back on. That just means that it's not holding pressure and it's something to do with the booster or master. So I can replace that no problem, but as far as the drums go and the rotors and pads, everything is good there. One thing I want to mention, when I was checking the CV axles, I'll show you guys here, but there is what looks like coolant on one, but it's on the driver's side and all the coolant's on the passenger side. And the passenger side one is bone dry, but let me just show you what I'm talking about. So here's the outer tie rod and it goes to the inner tie rod, and there's the boot on the inner tie rod, and as you can see, it's wet. You can clearly see that fluid on the bottom of the boot is green. It's legitimately coolant. It's the only green fluid I have in this car, and it's on the bottom of the boot, which I find really interesting because if you look up here, there's no leaks. This fluid is clear and golden. This fluid is clear or golden. And there's no coolant on this side. This is an oil feed for the turbo. There's no coolant feed on the turbo. All the coolant from the rad and everything is on this side. Upper hose, lower hose, all three coolant sensors, set, thermostat back there. But this one is completely dry. So I don't know how there got to be coolant all the way over here. If you look straight down at the boot, there's no coolant on it or anything at all whatsoever. It's just on the underside. So I don't know how that got all soaking wet with coolant, but I'm probably gonna hit it with some brake clean here, wipe it off, and we'll keep an eye on it to see if it comes back. But so far, we're looking good as far as suspension related components go. Next couple things is drivability. This one's hard to pass or fail because it's all due to the inspector. But if it was me, I would say it's good to go because everything suspension wise has been replaced on this vehicle. And I mean, it drives like it came off the showroom floor. It drives amazing for the age. Speedometer operation, I'm gonna go ahead and put a fail on that. It could be a pass, it could be a fail. This thing is super intermittent. RPM, heat gauge, everything works except the speedometer. When I went to go tune it for 7 pounds, speedometer was moving absolutely perfect, no issues. When I went on the last video, if you haven't seen, there'll be a card up here. The speedometer was very intermittently working. Half the drive it would come on, and the other half the drive it would just stay buried. I don't know what's going on with that. This transmission does have a new vehicle speed sensor and it's always worked ever since I B16 swapped it. Now it's doing the intermittent thing again. I don't know if it's another speed sensor or finally a faulty gauge, but it's hard to replace the gauge in the car because it's recorded the kilometers that are on it. So that's a big thing. A couple of the X's I'm gonna go ahead and have to write down on our paper. We have this paper here for everything that fails so we can make note of it. But speedometer is off. Odometer, if equipped, operation, it works just fine. It rolls over, so that's another check. Finally, on to section 2. All right, guys, so I've gone ahead and brake cleaned off that inner tie rod boot on the driver's side, got all the coolant off there, and we'll keep an eye on it, see if it comes back. Next section is all to do with dash and dash lights. So let's talk about it. First things first, PCM codes present. There is no check engine lights, pass. Any of the lamps fail to illuminate? No, they all illuminate, pass. ABS, ABS, ABS. This car doesn't have it. Pass, pass, pass. I mean, it can't fail if it doesn't have it. Brake system warning lamp fails to illuminate. It illuminates, pass. Brake system warning lamp remains illuminated. It doesn't, pass. SRS codes present. Obviously, there's a Momo Monte Carlo in there and it doesn't have an airbag. But I have this wheel. I just don't have the clock spring. So hopefully with that wheel and a new clock spring, that SRS light will be eliminated. But for now, it's a fail. Moving on, SRS lamp fails to illuminate. It doesn't, it does illuminate. SRS lamp remains illuminated. It does, so I put a pass, but even though it's a fail, I don't know, that's kind of a weirdly worded question. It does stay illuminated because of the Momo wheel. Airbags are present in the vehicle except for the steering wheel, so I put a fail on that. It will be once we put the new airbag and clock spring in. Airbag cover integrity, pass. The airbag cover on the steering wheel, good, and the dash, good. Electronic stability control, this car doesn't have it, so pass. Powertrain warning lamps, they all come up, but they all go away, pass. Other safety systems, this car doesn't have shit on it, so pass. That is section 2. Next, we're moving on to doors, rear view mirror, sun visors, horn, seat belts, seats, blah, 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 blah. So let's get cracking on this. For now, on our to fix, we have our brake booster because it lets off pressure when you're stopped, speedometer because it's intermittent, and SRS because we need to get this wheel in, but in order to do so, I need a damn clock spring. First things first, doors. has all the components, window, yada yada. It locks just fine. Good to go. Same deal with this one. Doors, pass. Next, rear view mirror. I'm already gonna go ahead and put a pass because not only does it have one, but it's OEM and it doesn't fall down or anything. We're good to go on that. Next, sun visors. Bit of an issue. I've got one, I don't have the other. Fail. Horn. It does work with the Momo and it will work with the stock wheel. Seats and seat belts. Seats I'm gonna put a fail because they were Caros. They are DOT. They're probably expired because they're ancient and the J-hooks have got some play in them, so they have this. Might be a pass, might be a fail. I think it's gonna be a fail. Do have OEM seatbelt buckles and they are connected and there's no seatbelt lights on the dash, but because of this, I'm gonna put fail. Seat belts, perfect, brand new. I replaced them because my old ones are ripped. They go in, they retract, they lock, and there's no rips. Same with passenger side. I'm gonna go ahead and say good. Signal lamp, switch and indicator, all that is good because I put a brand new combination switch in, as you can see by how sturdy it is. Good to go on that. Accidentally broke the previous one. I don't remember how, but it's a brand new one and it works like a hot damn. Hazard lamps work absolutely mint. We still have the hazard button right up there, right there. And yes, all 4 signal lights work. So hazard lamps, check. Headlamp, switch, and high beam indicator. Headlights work and high beams work. If you don't remember, we just put Oxydo LEDs in and we tested the high beams, low beams, and the projection. Line is flat, they project equally, and both work. Auxiliary lamp indicators. All of our lights on this vehicle work except for reverse lights. So, auxiliary lamp indicators, obviously our turn signals work because our hazards work and everything's good there. I'm gonna put it as a pass. Yes, the reverse lights don't come on, but we know why. There is a switch on the transmission itself, which on these B series is down there. You see this kind of wires going down? It's down there somewhere. It's the reverse light switch. It's busted, needs a new one, but the bulbs, sockets, everything is okay. That's an easy fix. Instrument panel lights. Yes, when I turn them on, the dash and everything lights up. That is good. I'll probably have to get a new cluster anyways, so we're just gonna put pass on that for now. HVAC, I'm gonna put a fat fail. You know why? If you don't know why, you should know. If you've been watching the channel, we did a heater core block off because when I was checking the Honda, it was leaking near the ECU and I didn't want that. So we got this universal line to go from right there and loop around back into here, and the heater core is blocked off. And if you can't freaking tell, we don't freaking have AC. I don't know how big of an issue that is. I doubt they're gonna rip up the carpet and check if the heater core is leaking. It does work when it's connected, it just leaks. So if it's a huge deal and it only needs heat, I can get heat in there. It does have AC on the HVAC control, so that might be a huge issue because this car is never having AC in it again. But that is a fail, unfortunately. Now, this is a big one. Windshield wiper and washer operation. Let's talk about it. Before we get started, if you can't tell, this car probably doesn't have windshield wipers. Here's the bottle, here's the pumps, here's the line. As you can tell, there is no lines here and there is no lines there. There is squirters, so I can run lines, and there is still the line that goes all the way back to the rear, goes under there, up here into the headliner, and there it is right there. Boom, boom, boom. And we also obviously don't have a rear windshield wiper or a third brake light, but I have that hatch glass way up there that has a windshield wiper and the stock wing with the brake light. So in theory, if I can get this bottle to work, or a different smaller bottle, and get the lines, that is a pass. As it sits, it's a fail. And the reason is that I don't have this in is because we're boosted. Look at this intercooler pipe right here, right where the windshield wiper bottle is supposed to go. So this bottle doesn't fit with the intercooler pipe. Will they pass a retrofit bottle that I might be able to put here that still functions with all the lines? I don't know. But as of right now, unfortunately, that is another fail. Moving on to pedals, accelerator and brake pedal. Accelerator is good. If you don't remember when we B16 swapped this car, the throttle got stuck wide open because we had the throttle cable bracket right here mounted upside freaking down. That is fixed. Accelerator pedal works good. So does the TPS and Honda. Accelerator, good to go. Service brake pedal is good to go. Clutch pedal assembly is also good to go, although we will have to adjust this clutch pedal because the throw is a little funky on it. And this being an auto to manual car, I don't know if that raises concerns as well, because that third pedal was never supposed to be there, and same with that shifter. That's just things I don't have answers to. But all three pedals are there and they all work perfectly fine. Parking brake, it illuminates on the dash when pulled and goes away when it's released. Parking brake is good. Neutral safety switch operation. Big old fail. Neutral safety switch. Basically, I believe that is when you start up the car without the clutch pressed in, it should not start. When this car, you can start it with no clutch pressed in. It's probably just those sensors that aren't there for the clutch pedal because it's a swap, but there is no neutral safety switch, and I don't really know how to fix that, to be honest. Entertainment display lockout. I don't know what to put for this. I'm just gonna say fail because our entertainment display is located right there and it is currently occupied with 3 freaking gauges. No radio, no entertainment, no speakers. I don't know if that's a fail to remove that. We also don't even have the antenna. That sucks. Anyways, section 3 is done. We're getting closer and closer to wrapping this up. Let's go write everything down that we failed in section 3 on our paper and move on to section 4. All right, let's just wrap section 4 up really quickly. I'll let you guys kind of read over this. It's just making sure they have all the OEM markings, the condition, the tinting, the visibility for all the windows involved. As we can see, all of our windows are completely OEM, untouched. They have all the DOT, blah, 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 blah. Same with this. Same with this one right here. They're all OEM. Same with that one right there. None of them have cracks. All of them function properly. If you didn't watch last week's video, this window fell off the rail and now it works completely fine again. Ya boy fixed that up. So I'm just gonna make the executive call. Since all the windows are uncracked, unmolested, unchanged, OEM, I'm gonna go ahead and check off everything in section 4. They also aren't tinted. There's no reason in the world that these windows wouldn't pass. So I'm gonna do section 4 glass as a straight up pass. Now we can move on to section 5, which is all of our outside lights. All right, let's do a little walk visual check. Lamps, general. All of our lamps are good. None of them are cracked. We have the rears. We have the signals and the OEM glass housings. All 3 of those are also DOT approved. So all of these lamps are good. Daytime running lamps, good to go. When I start the car up, put it in gear, daytimes come on, all set on that account. High mount brake lamp. What that means is our third brake light right here. There is none, but there's also no windshield wiper in the rear, which means we're gonna use our spare hatch glass, which has all of that, and that will be a pass. For now, since it's a fail, I'm gonna mark that as a fail. Headlamps, they are OEM as I just showed you guys. Glass housings, we don't have the tinted ones anymore because our reflector snapped off. Auxiliary lamps right here, they're good to go, no cracks, no nothing, and DOT approved. Front side marker lamps is what I'm talking about right there, good to go. All of our auxiliary lamps and everything, they're fine. We don't have any fog lights or anything like that. It never came equipped with it, so that's all fine. Front side reflectors, those are good. Obviously, like I said, everything's DOT and up to par. Rear side marker lamps, rear side reflectors. Right here, we don't have any side reflectors, like this car never came with it from factory, so that doesn't matter. Once again, all DOT, all good. License plate lamp, that might be an issue because our license plates don't light up. Is there even a light under there? Looks like there is lights, but I never drive this car at night, so I don't know if those turn on, so I'm just gonna put a fail on that for now. And then emergency lighting. I'm not too sure honestly what they mean by emergency lighting. Maybe hazards or interior lighting, but all the interior lights work just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this off. That was a really quick, easy section. Like I say, this car doesn't have a lot of lights. All the lights it does, they're DOT approved and they all work except for the reverse lights, which is the switch and the tranny that we already talked about. All right, from section 5, we had 2 things to add. Third brake light, which we talked about, and license plate lamp. I actually don't know if that works. I never drive this car at night, but I don't recall seeing it, so I'm gonna write it down anyways. It's probably just a little bit, some bulbs or something like that, easy peasy. Next is gonna be a super easy one as well. Section 6, fuel cap. I'm gonna go ahead and say that is immediate fail, and I'm gonna show you guys why right now. Now keep in mind, I don't know if this is a cap issue or an evap vent issue, but you're gonna see why I'm writing it down as a fail. Ready for this? Listen closely. You guys might not have been able to hear that. Sometimes it's worse than others, but when I take the fuel cap off, it makes a loud whish. Yes, that spring in there does function and everything's good. These are supposed to have vents on them, and my theory is that this vent is just pooched and blocked. I mean, look how old this cap is. It's literally, the writing's coming off from how many times it's gone on and off. Didn't do it bad that time. I'm kind of happy with that, but usually after a long, hard drive, if I were to take this off, it would go psh. There's definitely pressure in there that should be let off, that isn't, so I'm probably just gonna get an OEM cap to make sure it passes. For now, I'll write it down as a fail. Fuel cap, fail. General body condition, pass. This car is mint. You guys have seen this car, you guys know this car. There's no rust, there's nothing wrong with it. It has rolled fenders. Is that a fail? Who the hell knows, but there's no rust. Couple dents here and there, but for the most part, the body for this year in this car is in pristine condition. So we're gonna go ahead and pass that. Bumpers, they're all OEM untouched. Gonna go ahead and pass that. Aftermarket equipment installations such as wing, lip, all that. When it goes in for inspection, it's gonna have stock mirrors, stock wing, stock lip, and everything else on that outside of the car is already stock. So that is nothing to be concerned of. We're gonna go ahead and put a big fat pass on that as well. Chapter 6 concluded. The only thing I have to add to our list is a new fuel cap that vents properly. Next section, this is a fun one. Section 7, under the hood. Hood latch mechanism, hood prop, and struts. Let's go ahead and test that right now. I'm already telling you guys it's good to go, but the proof is in the damn pudding. So let's go ahead and drop the hood all the way to the latch. Latch is just fine. Come in here, pop the hood. Pops just fine. Hood mechanism is absolutely A1. And obviously our latch that we use in every video is good too. So 2 passes for under the hood. So hood latch mechanism, pass. Hood prop and struts, pass. Next, remote starter operation. Doesn't have one. This thing's a 94. Battery is perfectly fine. Actually, this battery is a goddamn godsend battery. It's an Everstart from freaking Walmart, and you guys won't believe this. This battery has never been on a tender. It's never had to get jumped. Knock on wood while I'm saying this. I had this battery with this car when I bought it in 2018 with the fucking B18 in here and the blown up transmission. I have never replaced this battery. I've never put it on a tender. I've never had to jump it, and it has never, ever fucked me around. It just works. Cross your fingers, knock on wood. This thing is a godsend battery. It's insane. So with that being said, where are we here? Battery, check. Brake master cylinder, we've already talked about that. That is a big, huge fail. Clutch master cylinder is perfect. Clutch depresses, it's never gotten stuck on the floor, and I replaced the slave and master not a couple years ago. Fuel system, we're gonna go ahead and put that as a fail immediately, and let me tell you why. The regulator, OEM, aftermarket fuel rail, shouldn't be cause for concern. Brand new injectors, OEM clips, shouldn't be cause for concern. Perfectly good working gauge, shouldn't be cause for concern. OEM, fuel return line, hose clamp, good to go, never leaks, not a cause for concern. What is a cause for concern then, you might be asking? Well, let's walk around to the bead. As you can tell, we have a low profile filter with AN lines, and it is all tucked on a cut hard line. Will that pass or will that fail? I have no bloody idea. I honestly think that's probably a fail, and that sucks because we're either gonna have to buy fuel line, take this whole fuel line out of the car, bend the new line exactly in the same orientation, mount it in the car with an OEM filter, or if they'll allow me, I'll just put a union fitting on it and just get a little piece to bend and go into the OEM filter, because if you guys don't know, the OEM filter mounts right there on those two little tabs that are coming out. The OEM filter, or maybe it's right there, I can't quite remember, but the OEM filter goes right around here, and it basically just goes from a standard hard line into this like disc filter, and then has a banjo bolt that goes right into the fuel rail. I do have the stock rail if need be for the stock filter, but that hard line's cut, and it's either going to need to be union connection. I don't know if that's legal for a pass or not, or I'm going to have to make an entire new hard line, which is an absolute pain in the butt, because as you can see, there's a million hard lines down there. And how easy do you think it's going to be to take that whole ass hard line out of the car and fucking buy one in a spool and bend it all and run it through the whole car from the tank to here? That'd be an absolute bloody nightmare. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to mark it as a fail, but that is the reason. The tucked fuel system I did. That being said, this tucked fuel system has been in the car since 2019. It's 2024, almost 2025, and it's never leaked. It's done nothing but great things, but I don't know if that'll be a pass or not. Let me know in the comments. Exhaust manifolds. This one's tricky. I don't really know if B16s come with factory manifolds that are catted. I don't think so. I think there's only one cat, and it's in the catback exhaust. I don't think the factory manifold is catted, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, this is a goddamn turbo manifold with a 3-inch downpipe and 3-inch exhaust with no cats, but it is a really high quality, good manifold, and there's nothing wrong with it. However, I don't know if that's gonna be a pass or fail because it's far from OEM. So once again, like the fuel system, I'm unsure. I'm gonna go ahead and put it as a fail. Could it be a pass? Absolutely. Do I know? Not a clue. Oil leaks, go ahead and pass. This car doesn't leak and drop whatsoever. So oil leaks are good to go. Engine and transmission mounts, they're all brand new and they're all solid mounts. None of them are ripped. Engine doesn't have excessive play, and they are all there with the respective hardware holding them in. So for this chapter, we have 3 fails, being brake master cylinder, fuel system because of that tucked feed line, and exhaust manifold. Both of these could be a pass or could be a fail. I'm not sure, but just to be safe, I'm gonna go ahead and jot them down in our book. All right, I feel like we're flying through this at an absolutely rapid rate. The next thing we're headed into is a huge one. Section 8, steering wheel and suspension. It goes over the wheel bearings, ball joints, tie rods, pitman arm, idler arm, steering stabilizer, dampener, steering shaft assembly, steering gear, rack and pinion, power steering, control arm, shocks, springs. Whew. Let's just go ahead and check off everything that I know immediately, and I'll prove to you guys that is true, and then everything I don't know, let's go inspect. First and foremost, wheel bearings. We checked those right away before we took the wheels off. Those are stout, solid, and brand new. Ball joints, front and rear. I'm gonna go ahead and put a pass on that, and let's just show you guys why we put a pass on that. Let's look down here. This ball joint, if you can't tell, is brand friggin' new, and there is 0 play. You would have seen it when we were moving the wheel, but just looking at the condition of the bolt and the silver on the cotter pin, it's not hard to tell that is brand new and good to go. Our other ball joint is up here on our K-tuned camber kit. Once again, a brand new part, probably doesn't even have 1,000 kilometers on it yet. If you can't tell by the boot and the silver cotter pin, this thing is brand freaking new, not an issue with it whatsoever. And that exact same thing corresponds to the passenger side as well. New lower ball joint and new K-tune upper control arms, obviously with ball joints installed. All that is good to go. Another big win for the Civic. Next on the list, they like to word things a little differently. Pitman arm, idler arm. Basically what they're talking about as far as this goes, there's control arms here, but this isn't a big truck. Like, they have to cover everything in here. So pitman arm, idler arm, if you go ahead and look those up for 92 to 95 Civics, it's really nothing more than just the factory lower control arm. So in my terms, basically how this works to me is this one here that's on the light that I'm following, this curved one here, that is the compliance arm. This arm right here, the inside one that the compliance arm is connected to, and then this is also connected to the suspension fork and the lower ball joint, is a lower control arm. These are the only thing up front that haven't been replaced, but the bushings and everything look to be okay, and all the bolts, everything's tight, nothing has play in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and count that as a pass. Could it be a fail? Absolutely, but I've gone through, I've checked all the bushings. None of them look too terribly tired or ripped. This one's getting there, but still, there's not excessive play in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and write pass for pitman and idler. Next is steering stabilizer and dampener, steering shaft assembly, steering gear, and rack and pinion. We have to talk about that. But for right now, pitman arm, idler arm, control arms, we're kind of grouping all together, are getting a pass from me. Now, this car is not a freaking F350 Super Duty. There is no steering stabilizer or dampener, so obviously that's a pass. Doesn't come equipped on this car. Steering shaft assembly. Basically, what they're talking about, that the steering shaft is the shaft connecting the steering wheel, going through the firewall, out here, and connecting to the steering rack. It's kind of hard for me to inspect. I'm gonna crawl down there, I'm gonna look at it and get back to you guys on that. Skipping over that, steering gear. So the steering gear is okay, it's completely fine, but the problem with this car is that it was factory power steering. That factory power steering has now been looped to be manual steering. If you can't tell, we don't really have a lot of room here to run factory AC and factory power steering components. Now, if I go over here and grab my flashlight, you guys can see exactly what I mean. There's the steering rack there, and those two lines are looped to cap it off to basically convert this power steering rack to manual. Is that a pass? Is that a fail? I don't know. If it's power steering from factory, I almost think it has to be power steering to pass. I did look it up and they say if it's done properly, it can be a pass as well. So I don't really know what to do with that. It's a hard call. It is a hard call because factory power steering converted to manual. A lot of these things are going to be up to the inspector, right? I mean, this is all up for interpretation. Steering shaft assembly is perfectly fine. Steering gear, perfectly fine. Rack and pinion, I'm gonna go ahead and put a fail on this for one reason and one reason only. I am unsure about the power steering to manual steering conversion. And another thing, you guys might be able to see it, you might not, but the steering wheel has about an inch of play before it actually moves the steering rack. That is to do with the lash adjustment, which is a common maintenance thing on this vehicle. You need a special tool from Honda. It's a huge 12-point socket. It's very flat. I ordered one of those tools, and basically what you do is you stick that tool on, break the big 12-point loose, and then there'll be a nut in the middle. You run fully down and then back it off like a quarter turn, tighten it up, and there should be no play between the steering wheel and the rack. That is an easy thing to fix, but since it's not fixed yet, I do have the tool. I'll need to fix it, and going from power to manual, I don't know if that's a pass, so unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go ahead and mark that as a fail. Next thing, struts and shocks. Brand new coilovers on this rig. As you guys just seen from looking at the K-tuned control arms and last video, I went ahead and adjusted them. These things are brand new. They rebound, they feel great, nothing wrong with them at all. So struts and shocks is a pass because, well, they're just new coilovers and they work fine. Springs on those coilovers are also just fine, once again, because this and this comes as a package and they're all brand new. And that basically brings us to the end of section 8, steering and suspension. The only thing that's up for debate is the rack and pinion. With the slop in the wheel, I'll have to fix that, and going from power to manual steering. Whew, I feel like we have been moving a million miles an hour through this inspection, and there is quite a few big things that I'll need to get fixed. But heading into our next section is section 9. Tires and wheels. First and foremost, we have tread depth measurements. We're on brand new Nitto Neogens. They're completely fine with our Koenigs. I mean, brand new rims, brand new tires, hub centric, brand new wheel studs, brand new wheel bearings. Like, this is all good. Wheel nuts and studs, like I just said, when we did the wheel bearings, they come with fresh studs, and we're just using OEM locking style lug nuts with the proper seat on them as well. So tires and wheels is a super easy section. Pass, 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 pass. Done deal. Moving on to section 10, brakes. All right, so for section 10 with brakes, they want a bunch of measurements and stuff. Obviously, I'm not gonna go measure everything, but the thing with this car is the one thing I haven't touched is the brakes. You got stock calipers, stock pads, stock rotors, stock brake lines, hard lines and rubber lines, and then you have stock drums in the rear that you guys can't even see. Also with stock everything on them. Everything brake wise on this car should pass. Aside from that brake booster bleeding off pressure when you hold the brakes for too long, everything is stock and OEM. I don't even have stainless steel lines or anything. Hardline OEM, rubber lines OEM, calipers, rotors, hats, shoes, everything is OEM. And then the other thing it mentions in brake system is the park brake. When you rip the e-brake in this car, it'll lock up those rear tires like no tomorrow. It works, it functions absolutely properly, it's nice and tight. So I don't see a need to go ahead and measure everything, but if the brake rotor thickness or anything like that isn't adequate or up to date, obviously that's a super easy fix. The last thing I'm worried about is the brake system. I know all the hard lines are straight, they're good, they're everything. I'll crawl under there and show you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and say pretty well everything on brakes is a pass. Section 10 for brakes, pretty well a wrap. All right, boys, me and you, time for a deep dive under the car. Oh, there are the hard lines there going all the way back to the vehicle. I don't know if you guys can see this too well. These hard lines are in perfect condition all the way down to the end of the vehicle. The bottom of this car is freaking immaculate, for lack of a better term. Let's go ahead and just see like all the suspension, compliance arm. There's one of the bushings there, no rips, no tears. Yes, it's a little bit old. Yes, it's a little bit tired, but there's no rips or tears. Brake lines, fuel lines, all the way down the vehicle, no problem whatsoever. Bushing here is looking a little bit tired, but still there's no leaks. Oh, that could be a problem right there, leaking at the half shaft. I might need to buy a new half shaft because it does look like that seal is actually leaking quite a bit. Shoot, we're gonna have to add that to the list. Half shaft. Good thing I crawled under here because that is not fantastic. But mainly we were under here for the hard lines, and those are beauty. There you have it. All the brakes are OEM, rubber lines are OEM, hard lines all the way to the back, no rust. I mean, they're fine, they're great. I'm glad we did crawl under there though, because that half shaft leaking is new knowledge to me. We're gonna have to add that to the list. But as far as the brake components go, I'm gonna put a pass for everything because there's just nothing wrong. And since we were just under the car checking out everything there, you guys see in the underbelly of the car, the floor pans, the hard lines, the bushings, the oil pan, the underside of the transmission. You guys basically just seen it all when we were all under there. It's quite a clean car, and it's a perfect transition to get into section 11, which is the next section after brakes, which is under the vehicle. Let's see what they have here, and let's see what we just found from being under the car. First things first, bumpers. There's not much to the bumpers on these vehicles. Mine are both OEM and not cracked or anything. They are in perfect condition. Engine, it's a freaking fresh turbo B16A. There's nothing wrong with that engine. Will it pass being turbo, or will I have to put it back to NA on a stock ECU? I don't know. It is on a wideband. There's no stock O2 sensor. There's also no check engine lights, and they don't dive really into that. Since it's OBD1, they can't scan it anyways. There's no real way for them to know it is tuned. But if it needs a stock O2 and it's running off a wideband, it kind of looks like a stock O2. Maybe it might be a fail, maybe it might not be, but there's no leaks. This engine compression check's healthy, runs healthy, doesn't burn much, and it's just up to the whole turbo system if that would make the quote-unquote engine fail. But engine is perfectly fine. Next, transmission, transfer case, transaxle. Everything's built into the transmission on this. You guys just seen the underside of it. There is no problems at all. The clutch is good, the tranny's good, there's no leaks, there's no anything. All the mounts are good. Like I said, we have solid torque mounts here, and on that frame rail, 1 mount, 2 mount, 3rd mount with the T-bracket, all brand new. None of them are ripped, all good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and give the Civic a pass on that as well. Differentials, it is also built into the transmission. It's just a little front wheel drive car. It is also good. Drive axles and propeller shafts. Gonna go ahead and put a fail on this because, like I said, we just found that the intermediate shaft is leaking. Left side, right side axle and boots, perfect. No excessive play, no leaks in the boots, but that half shaft is probably gonna cause this section right here to be a fail. So we're gonna go ahead and mark that down as a fail. And yes, I've already written it down, half shaft leaking. We have that on the list. Floor pan, perfectly fine. You guys just seen it as I was showing you the hard lines running underneath the car. This car is freaking mint underneath, man. Not a problem with it at all. So we're gonna go ahead and put a pass. Fuel system, see, I'm gonna put another fail on there just like I put a fail on it before. Exhaust system, once again, a big fat fail. Now, where I'm going, I'm not gonna be telling you guys, but they don't test for emissions. Does the resonator look like a cat? Yes, it is. Is it a cat? I'm not gonna say, never know. But it is 3-inch downpipe and 3-inch exhaust. Will that pass? Will that fail? I don't freaking know. they don't test for decibels or emissions. So this exhaust system very well could be a pass, but in the same respect, it could very well be a fail. I have no idea, just due to the fact that this car came with a fence pipe exhaust with cats, resonators, and mufflers, and now that it's a full 3-inch system, catless, oops, did I just say that? I'm gonna put it down as a fail. But we do somewhere right there actually have my 2.5-inch NA exhaust with a private label MFG catalytic converter installed on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and have to add the exhaust system on our list of to-do as well. And next is structural integrity. And structural integrity is our last section. What they want us to go over is documentation. All of that checks out. VIN, that checks out. Body, general, it checks out. You guys have seen this car. You guys have known this car. I've built this car. There's nothing wrong with the body. There's no excessive rust. There's no excessive rot. There's no anything. Frame rails are straight. It is a rebuilt title, which goes through a little bit more strenuous inspection process. From what I heard from the previous owner, it was fixed under insurance. That structural integrity, I'm gonna leave blank. There's no rust, there's no anything. I'd like to think it's passed, but I don't know the measurements from factory. I don't know what's with or without in spec. So I am going to leave that blank as I just simply don't know. And that concludes the whole inspection sheet of 3 pages. All right, so just to show you guys, I know it's been a long lot of talking video. Just to go over everything here, I'm just gonna show you guys really quickly. You can pause the video and look at anything you want, but we have gone fully through the inspection top to bottom. Yes, there's quite a lot of things that passed, but there's also a lot of things that failed. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different, but it's just something that has to be done. I have huge, like massive plans for this channel and the future, but unfortunately I can't do it in this town, hence why I'm planning to move. I don't want to say where, I don't want to say too much because I'm tired of leading on things that don't actually happen, but this is something we need to do, and I figured it'd be quite insightful for you guys to see what would pass and fail on this Civic if an inspection were to arise. So I have my sheet here. Let's just go over everything that was jotted down as a fail from the inspection sheet and kind of see what we can do about it. First and foremost, starting at the top, brake booster. Like I said, when you apply the brakes and you're sitting for so long, it'll start to roll back and you got to apply it again. We need a new brake booster or master or both. I'll probably just replace both to be safe. Speedometer, half the time it works, half the time it doesn't work and just stays at 0 kilometers an hour. I don't know why. It still has a good speed sensor, so I assume the speedo is finally just taking a shit. SRS, we have our Momo Monte Carlo, but we have an airbagged wheel for 92 to 95 Civics. One thing about this wheel is it has cruise control, but my car doesn't have cruise control. So I'm a little bit worried to put that wheel in because they might think the car has cruise control and it doesn't. But I also need a clock spring, and hopefully once the clock spring and the wheel go on, I can reset this SRS and it doesn't come on. If it continues to stay on, well, we're kind of fucked on that regard. Passenger sun visor, I don't know why this is a safety concern. It's literally a damn sun visor. The passenger isn't driving. Who gives a heck about them? But I don't have one, and apparently you need one, so I'll have to get one of those. Seats is questionable because they are Recaros, but they do have a little back and forth play. I might have to get some OEM seats. HVAC, which basically means your heat and your AC. I don't have AC, obviously, and now I don't have heat because I just blocked off the heater core for obvious reasons of leaking under my dash. Too close for comfort to my ECU with the Honda. That's a very expensive piece, so that whole thing has been deleted. Once again, I don't know why that's a safety thing, maybe for fog and stuff on the windows, but what do you do? I might have to hook up heat again. I really hope I don't have to hook up AC because I'd have to take the whole turbo kit off this car to get AC. Window wipers, we went over that. The bottle doesn't fit because the intercooler piping and my rear hatch glass has the wiper and all the lines and everything. So I'd need to retrofit a bottle or go back to NA and run lines on my hood that's propped up over there in order for that system to work. But windshield wipers isn't the end of the world. We can handle that. Neutral safety switch, you can start the car without pressing the clutch. Don't really know what to do about that. Because it is an auto to manual swap. Also, the shifting tunnel being all cut out for the manual swap, I don't know if that arises any issues as well, so I put that on there. I might have to figure that out. Entertainment lockout, like I said, our entertainment is comprised of an AEM wideband, a water temp gauge, and a boost gauge. There is no entertainment. I don't know if that is a fail or what's going on with the entertainment side of things. Third brake light, we don't have one right now because we have our spoon rep wing, but that other hatch glass that has the windshield wipers has an OEM wing with a brake light. That is no problem to bolt on that hatch glass. License plate lamps, I don't remember if they illuminate because I never drive at night, but that is a super duper easy fix. Could be bulbs, could be a little bit of wiring, a little bit of socket issue, who knows. Easy fix. Fuel cap, it doesn't bleed off the pressure. You run it hard one day, you go to take off the cap and you can hear whoosh come out of it. New fuel cap is no big deal. Tucked fuel feed, that could be a big issue because it is a cut hard line, and running a new hard line is a pain in the butt. Hopefully, if it is a pain in the butt, that will allow us to pass it with a union fitting so we don't have to run or take out an entire fuel feed line, hard line from the car. Exhaust manifold, well, it's a turbo manifold, not a stock one. I don't think the B16s came with stock cats in the manifold, but what do I know? That might be an issue. Power steering delete might be an issue because it was a power steering car that's now a manual steering. Slop in the steering rack needs to be adjusted. When you go ahead and turn the steering wheel, there's a bit of a play, but everything else in the steering system is good. Half shaft leaking, that sucks. I'll just buy a whole new half shaft and be done with it. And then going back to the exhaust manifold, our full exhaust has no cats. It's full 3-inch, and who knows if that'll pass. Like I said, where I would be heading, they don't test for emissions or noise, so the 3-inch exhaust, for all I know, could be perfectly fine. Will I have to add a cat? Will I have to put an OEM exhaust on? I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to get at with this video is there's a tall order of things to do, and there's a couple things like the radiator and the rad fan that weren't gone over in this motor vehicle record of inspection that I don't know if also might be cause for concern. There's a lot of things on this car. If you can't tell, it is a fully built 90s Honda Civic, and on top of that, it's a rebuilt title from some jerk off with his hitch on his F-150 backing into a freaking $50 fender that warranted an entire car to be a rebuilt status. What a joke. Anyways, this thing is fully built, and what I'm asking you guys is, do we keep it or do we sell it and buy something new in the new province, like an Acura RSX Type S? Is it worth the headache of putting this car relatively back to stock to get it to pass to put all of our built stuff on? Or is it worth it to sell it here and move on and get a new project? Now that you guys know the list of what it will and won't pass on, hopefully, like I said, it's all up to the inspector's discretion. What I said could be false. What he said, I don't know. Who freaking knows? Do you want to see this car go back to stock to pass an inspection, to get all the same mods put back on it and go to shows and stuff more than just once a year at Hot Night in the City? Or should we just cut our losses, part ways with it, and buy like an RSX Type S and do a fresh build? You guys let me know in the comments below. Until next time, boys, comment, like, subscribe. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a long one, but something that needs to be done and something that needs to be addressed because things are happening fast, and these are the biggest things I've ever done. So let me know in the comments. Keep this and get it to pass inspection and watch it basically go back to stock and then get rebuilt, or cut our losses, move on, and get a new build for the channel that we don't have to go through this crazy inspection that we can buy once we get there. Who knows? You let me know. Comments below. They're open. Subscribe. Noties on. Hit that bell. And I'll see you boys in the next one when we wrap the roof of this car black finally and delete those tiger stripes. Peace out, homies.